Can everyone hear me in the back there? Okay. I don't see anyone waving no, so I'll assume that you can. Once again, I want to thank you all for coming. I really want to apologize for all the inconvenience for those of you who had to switch rooms. I want to thank the Lawndale City Council members, the mayor, and the other council members for helping react quickly to this and get us up into this bigger room. We weren't anticipating such a large crowd, and it's really great that the city could accommodate us and get us up into this room. My name is Kate Netting. I'm the general manager for Golden State Water Company's Southwest District. We're here today to talk about Golden State Water's staged mandatory water conservation and rationing plan. We have several people from Golden State Water in the room today. Jarvis Orozco here is one of our water distribution superintendents. We also have Edwin DeLeon in the back. He is our water use efficiency manager. We have Amber Troncoso and Shirley Rodriguez. And we also have Autumn Burke, who is, I think, still helping to move everything up here from down below. But all of us will be available following the meeting to answer questions. Jarvis, Shirley, and Amber are all Spanish speaking. So this presentation will be in English. We did bring some Spanish translations of the presentation. I believe they got all passed out, so we didn't anticipate how many people would want the Spanish presentation. We do have some comment cards in Spanish, if we still have some left, or you can fill out a comment card in Spanish and we'll have the ability, we have a few different people here who can translate. So I encourage you to do that if you'd like a question. If you want, can you say that briefly in Spanish to, that we'll be able to translate questions for them.
Okay.
It's on, yeah.
Al final de la presentación, si tienen preguntas en español o no entendieron algo, por favor, vengan, hagan sus preguntas. Tenemos aquí una tarjeta, pues, sí, por quejas, comentarios, algo así. Tenemos a Amber, a mí y a la señora Shirley que hablan español. Si tienen preguntas en español o no entienden, por favor, venir y hacer la pregunta.
Okay, so I mentioned the purpose of this presentation is to talk about the staged mandatory water conservation and rationing plan that Golden State Water was required to file with the California Public Utilities Commission. The main purpose of this hearing is for you to hear what that plan says and to provide feedback, questions, or comments about what you have about the plan. The way that we will handle that here in this meeting, there are so many people here. We want to make sure and answer as many questions that we can in the time that we have allowed. So that's why we're using the comment card process. If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment at any point during the presentation, I ask you to write it down. Hold your questions to the end. We'll be going through them all at the end. I have a feeling that questions that may come up during the presentation may be answered by the end. So at the end of the presentation, I will gather all the comment cards, or you can give them to anybody in the room who I just introduced. We'll go through all of them. If we have a duplicate question, I'll pass over that. If we have any questions that aren't related to this hearing and this filing, I'll also be passing over those. However, we will, as long as we can, stay here in the room after to answer any other questions or concerns. I also commit to you that we will follow up if we aren't able to answer your question or address your concern tonight. If we can have your contact information, we will follow up with you at a later date. So a couple of announcements before starting the brief presentation that I have. Firstly, I said it in the smaller room, I'll say it here again. This presentation, this meeting is being recorded, and it's going to be on Lawndale City TV, which is Time Warner Channel 3. It's also Channel 3 on Verizon Fios. But it'll also be on the Lawndale City YouTube channel. So you'll be able to view it at, I believe it's 9 p.m. on Thursday evening on the Lawndale channel, but then at any time after that point, you'll be able to view it on YouTube. Another comment that I want to make for those of you who are concerned when you got that notice that you are about to be water rationed, have allocations, have penalties assessed to you, I want to make it clear that that's not the case right now. This filing that we're doing is in direct response to state Water Resource Control Board regulations that require us to implement measures that will have our water users reduce their water use by 12%. It's a staged approach. What's in the notice that you got lists all the stages that we could go to if we're not meeting those mandatory reduction requirements. Right now, we're only planning on implementing stage 1, and that is just a restriction on outdoor watering. So I'll go through all that in more detail, but I wanted to start with that because the feedback I've gotten is lots of people think that they're about to have their water rationed, and that's not our plan at this time. Excuse me. So the reason why we're doing this is I think that everybody in this room probably knows that California is in a drought. If you look at this map, you'll see the coloring is a little hard to see, but anything that's dark red or dark orange shows either exceptional or extreme drought. So you can see by looking at this map that every part of the state is at least abnormally dry, but the majority of the state right now is in exceptional or extreme drought. So in response to this, the State Water Resources Control Board enacted some emergency drought regulations in June of 2014. At that time, you would have all gotten some communications from us kind of listing those regulations. I'll go through them again shortly. And since that time, California has saved quite a bit of water. 469,000 acre feet, that's over 150 billion gallons of water saved between June 14 and March 15. However, that was only a 9% reduction. Early last year, the governor called for everybody across the state to reduce their water usage by 20%. That was before the winter that we just had with very little precipitation. And during that time, people reduced by 9%. So it's clear that everyone, or most people, were trying to reduce water, but we didn't get where we needed to be, particularly with the dry winter that we just had. So in response to this dry winter, on March 17th of this year, the State Water Resources Control Board enacted some additional expanded emergency regulations. These also were, as we as a regulated utility are governed by the California Public Utilities Commission. So shortly thereafter, the CPUC also enacted these regulations, and so they took effect for Golden State Water on May 11th. So this first slide here shows the emergency regulations that have been in place since last year, since June of last year. Basically, any outdoor watering that is overspray that runs off onto adjacent property, onto the sidewalk, any non-permeable space is prohibited. Washing a vehicle with a hose without a shut-off nozzle is prohibited. And I know that some cities have even stronger ordinances than that you can't even wash your car outside your house. You have to go to a place that recycles their water. Using drinking water to wash down your driveway or sidewalk is prohibited. And using drinking water in a fountain or other decorative feature that doesn't have a recirculating pump is prohibited. Under these new regulations, there were some other things put into effect. First, customers aren't allowed to irrigate turf or ornamental landscape within 48 hours of a measurable rain. And a measurable rain is considered 100ths of an inch or more. Yeah, so pretty much anything. Any kind of rain, like even this morning it was spraying on my windshield. That was probably close to measurable. Restaurants and other food service establishments are only allowed to serve water now upon customer requests. I think that's been in place in a lot of cities for a long time, but now it's actually a state regulation. Also, operators of hotels and motels must give guests the option of not having their towels and linens laundered every day. And we as a utility are required now to notify our customers if, when we read your meter, we see something that indicates there could potentially be a water leak. We're required to notify you right away so that you can fix the leak if you have it. So violations of any of these prohibited activities that I just listed are punishable by a fine of up to $500 per day for the State Water Resources Control Board. And if there are any cities or public agencies that have ordinances related to that, that's the mechanism in which you could be fined. get a violation like that. We, as an investor-owned utility, we don't actually have a mechanism in place to fine you directly for violating any of these activities. However, we do have measures that we will be taking that can help convince people who are violating to cease to do so, and I'll go through those. So, following the State Water Resource Control Board's March 17th declaration of putting in those emergency regulations, on April 1st, Governor Brown issued an executive order that basically directed all Californians to cut water usage by 25% across the state. So in response to that, on May 5th, the State Water Resource Control Board adopted an emergency regulation that was put in place to do just that, reduce water usage by 25% across the state. So here's where we talk specifically about the Southwest water system, the water system that serves you. This restriction is based on, the State Water Board is looking at residential usage during the summer of last year, and they're looking to see a reduction of 25% statewide in that with these new regulations. But what they did, the State Water Board looked at every single water system, and you'll see throughout the state, some water users have already been doing a lot to conserve, whereas other water users haven't really done anything or still using a huge amount of water. So the State Water Board looked at the average gallons per capita per day for customers in each of the water systems, and they looked at a required water reduction specifically for each water system based on how much they had already reduced since 2013. So in our Southwest system, instead of being asked to reduce 25%, the State Water Board says that we all must reduce our water usage by 12% as compared to 2013. That takes effect starting June 1st. And the way that it's recognized that outdoor irrigation usage can be up to 70% of a residential customer's usage. So it's realized that limiting outdoor watering is a huge way that you can help to meet this reduction requirement. So in response to that regulation or that requirement by the State Water Board and the CPUC, Golden State Water filed Schedule 14.1 with the California Public Utilities Commission on May 13th. And the suggested staged approach for requirements to reduce water usage are looking to reduce water usage in our system by 12%. And this, we filed this 14.1 with the PUC. It's not approved yet. One of the requirements is we must hold a public meeting to hear our customers' questions and concerns and communicate those to the PUC. So we'll be doing that following this meeting, and then following that, at some point, the PUC will approve our plan. So under the 14.1, it's used for mandatory conservation requirements and rationing if needed. It's a detailed outline of our conservation and rationing program. And there are several things that are listed in it that no matter what stage we're at, they're unauthorized because they're considered non-essential. So anything that's listed under this section that's unauthorized and non-essential water use will be prohibited as soon as this is approved. So the plan does, in some stages, it has some emergency surcharges and penalties. And as I mentioned, we don't have direct tickets that we'll be issuing, but we do have some enforcement actions that will take place for those who are found not to comply with the requirements. So first, say if we see you watering during the day, which will be prohibited under this plan, we would issue a written warning. So basically just a notice to say you were found to be watering during the day, that's not allowed. If after 3 such warnings, if there still is non-compliance, we will proposing to put a flow restrictor on that service. So the flow restrictor would allow just enough water to come through to meet sanitary needs. So you have water to drink, you have water to cook with, you have water to do your dishes. However, there wouldn't be enough pressure to take a shower. There wouldn't be enough pressure to run sprinklers. So as I mentioned, after many warnings, we could put a flow restrictor on your property that would be in place for a minimum of 7 days. There's also a charge that's associated with installing and removing that flow restrictor, which is listed in the plan. And it's a different charge based on what the size of your meter is. So basically that's after warnings, after we've tried to educate, work with the customers, but that is our next step. If after installing a flow restrictor and removing it subsequently, if there still is not compliance, then we actually do have the ability to terminate water service for water waste. So this is where we actually talk about the stages of the plan. As I mentioned, it's a staged approach. There are 4 different stages that are listed. Golden State Water is, once approved, proposing to activate stage 1 immediately. So this is what stage 1 is. We're limiting outdoor water irrigation to 2 days per week, and it'll be different days, whether if your address ends in an odd number, it'll be Tuesday and Saturday. If it ends in an even number, it's Wednesday and Sunday. And the watering must occur between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. Now, I'll make that clear, that's for irrigation services, like plumbed irrigation services with timers or sprinklers that spray out. That doesn't apply to hand watering with your hose or with a watering pot. It's just for the sprinklers. So you can't run your sprinklers except for during those days and during those times. But other types of watering is allowed outside at other times during the week. Now I should say that we do have the ability, if we want to update our stage 14.1 to cut down watering days even more. We don't have any plans to do that at this time, but we just look at watering ornamental landscape. Everyone wants to keep their lawn nice and green, however, it's not essential for life, so we look at that as a way, if we have to limit water use, that's the best way to try to start. So these are the other stages of the plan that are listed, stages 2, 3, and 4. In each of those stages, the requirements are the same. And basically what we'll be looking at is we still will have the limit on outdoor watering for 2 days a week on those days that I just listed. However, also we'll be giving our customers an allocation. So basically we'll look at, since this regulation requires a reduction of water usage based on 2013 usage, we will look at what that customer used in 2013, and we'll reduce that by 12%, and that'll be that customer's allocation. Now, for those who have already reduced a lot and don't have a lot of room to reduce more, I will say there will be a minimum allocation of 800 cubic feet, so nobody will be allocated less than that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the 3 stages, as I mentioned, are all the same. It's just that in each stage, if we activate a higher stage, the drought emergency surcharges associated with using more than your allocation increase. So under stage 1, anything that's more than your allocation, you'll get a $2.50 drought emergency surcharge on every unit or 100 cubic feet of water that you use over that. If we have to activate stage 3, that doubles, so it'll be $5 per 100 cubic feet for everything over your allocation. And in stage 4, it doubles again, so it'll be $10 per acre foot. So the idea behind that is, everyone needs a certain amount of water for their livelihood, to cook, to bathe, to drink, etc. But there's always more, everyone has the ability to use more than that for things that aren't essential to life. So if the surcharge goes, if we're not getting the reduction that we need, we activate higher stages, the surcharge goes higher and higher. At some point, there'll be a point where it's not worth it to use that higher amount of water over and above what's needed for sanitation. And that's the idea by putting the higher surcharges on the higher stages. So how this will work if we do go into allocations is that we'll look each month at what the customer used in that particular month in 2013. So when you get your water bill would show what your allocation was for the month that you're in, or the bill that you got, and it'll also show you what your allocation is for the next month. So you'll always be able to plan, because as you imagine, most people use more water during the summer months than the winter. So your allocation would be a little bit higher, most likely in the summer than the winter, but it'll be based month over month on what you used in that same month in 2013. If you live in a residence that wasn't built in 2013, we'll look at other residences in that neighborhood of similar size, and we'll get a local average for that particular location, and your allocation will be based on that. As I mentioned, no customer would be given an allocation that's less than 800 cubic feet, and that's close to 6,000 gallons per month. And as I said, the current and future allocations will be on every billing statement that you get. There is a process to appeal. If you get your allocation and you think that it's way too low, we will have an appeal process in place. We'll have the ability to apply in our website, or you can call and we can tell you how to apply in writing. You can come into one of our local offices and fill out a form. So the biggest things that we're looking at in that allocation process is that 8 CCF minimum usage is based on 4 people living in a home and what 4 people would need in a residence in a month. So if you have a larger household than that, you have the opportunity to have a higher allocation because that 8 CCF is based on that 4 people in a home. Also, if you have a medical condition that requires the use of water over and above the normal amount, if you may be able to get an appeal or get a higher allocation based on that. So again, there's no need to go through that process right now. We're not in allocations. We have no plan at this point to go into allocations, but you would be notified if we had to go to that next stage, and you would be given your allocation and you would have the ability to appeal if you felt that you needed to. I should mention, though, if any of you want to prepare in advance and know what your 2013 usage was already so that you can see if we were in the allocation what you would need to do, you can get that 2013 information by calling our 800 number, which I'll give to you at the end of the presentation. We also have a special email set up called Drought@gswater.com. So you can email that address and ask for your information, and we'll email it to you. Or if you want, or we can take down your name and number here tonight too, and your email address, and we can send you that information just if you want to prepare. So this slide actually just gives you a kind of a look at what the Southwest system looks like. So the 2 lines that you see are the statewide averages over the past year since last July for the state and also for the South Coast region, which is the region that we're in. Those lines look fairly similar, especially going from December onwards. But then the 2 bars are us, the Southwest water system, 2013 and 2014. So you can see that there isn't a whole lot of difference between 2013 and 2014 water usage for the Southwest system, but you can also see that it's below the state average. So we know that many of our customers have already been taking the drought seriously, have already been concerned about conservation and doing what they can to save water. And that's the reason why we are only set at reducing 12% versus some systems had as high as 36%. So we're in the last few slides of the presentation before I start reading the comment cards. But I did want to mention to you that we have lots of programs available to you that can help you reduce water or to learn about things that you can do to reduce water. As I mentioned in the smaller room, Edwin DeLeon is our water use efficiency manager. We have a table at the back. We have lots of materials about water conservation, our different programs. We have some conservation devices that we're giving out tonight. So I encourage you to stop by that table if you haven't already done so. But we have there are lots of programs, ideas, tips, et cetera, in place to help meet that 12% reduction. On our website, www.gswater.com/conservation, all of those programs are listed. There's also links for the ones that you want to apply to. You can link directly to the applications and apply through the website. So I really encourage you to go onto that website and or stop by our table here in the back tonight. So this is just a list of some of the things that we have available in terms of programs and rebates. Rebates for high efficiency toilets and washers, weather-based irrigation controllers, soil moisture sensors, more efficient sprinkler hose nozzles. There's also a turf removal program, so you can actually potentially get a rebate for removing your turf and installing other drought-friendly landscaping. So that can help offset some of the costs of doing that. And also for larger commercial or institutional programs, there's also those rebates available for turf removal for those larger properties. So we have been, over the past year, through direct mailers, through billing statements, through updates to our websites, been updating all of you on the changes in the regulations, trying to provide conservation tips, et cetera, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to be giving you bill messages, and we'll communicate directly with you by mailer when it is appropriate. We also are always updating our website and providing as much information as we can on our website. And we also have an email stakeholder communication list, so there's probably many of you in the room who are already on that. If you're not, you can sign up for it through our website, or you could leave your information here today and we'll get you added. But that is a good way, that's a really good way for us actually when we have any kind of update, we send it to everybody on that stakeholder list, and I think it's a great way to communicate. So I encourage you all to sign up for that too. So that just lists some of our websites. As I mentioned, we have a Drought website. We also have that website that's in Spanish, so there's the website to get to for our Drought website in Spanish. We also have an informational video that we put together a couple of months ago. It's just about a 5-minute video, but it actually has a customer who converted her landscape from turf to a drought-friendly garden. It's really beautiful and interesting, and it kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with your garden and still have a very nice landscaping. And we also have, as I mentioned, we're always providing updates and news on that website. So this is the last slide that I have before I'll start to get to the questions and comments. I just wanted to let you know that there is a way, if you see a residence or a business that is wasting water that's not in compliance with these regulations that I just went through today, or that you got listed in any mailers that you've gotten, you can call us and report that water waste, and we will investigate and take action as needed. You can call us, or you can mention it to us as you're paying your bill, or you can actually just go onto the website, gswater.com. From that front page, there's a place that you can click to report water waste. So I just want to make sure you all are aware of that, because as we get into these regulations, we're all in this together. We all as a system need to reduce water by 12%, and we can't be everywhere at once. So if you see something that's not in compliance, I encourage you to please report it. So that's the final slide. I'll leave this information up here if you want to write it down, our website, and also our 800 number, so please don't hesitate to contact us anytime following this meeting.